I'm going to steal a pen. You don't mind, do you? Where is it? Come on, where did I put it? Aha!
He's gone!
Oh, yes. Tonight was fun. We should do it again sometime.
At 9 in the evening, Mr. Voila invited the police detective into his mansion to take a look at the traps and precautions he had prepared, and, of course, to explain his plan for catching Mr. Mischief in the act.
You think just like an entitled rich man. Since none of your traps are physically dangerous, I will allow them. But I am the one who will take charge here. We'd never know who was a secret supporter of that flashy thief.
I see. Well, in that case, I am not needed here. Take good care of my mansion while I am gone.
Where will you be going?
I usually check on my businesses around now, and since you have things covered, I will take care of that.
Mr. Voila left his mansion around 10 and made sure his alibi was properly set up, before returning an hour later to sneak into his secret chamber to prepare his Mr. Mischief persona and his tools. Minutes before midnight, he slipped out of the secret chamber disguised as a tech guy. According to his instructions, there would be several running around to maintain the technical traps and deal with malfunctions. In this disguise, Mr. Mischief headed to the nearest trap to check it out.
Hey, get away from there! That thing could go off!
I need to make sure the trap is functional. Besides, we checked all of the traps beforehand, and none of them were dangerous.
The policeman paused, clearly unsure of what to do. He was probably new. Mr. Mischief might be able to take advantage of that. The trap was a laser sensor that would activate if any lasers were interrupted. He had been lucky not to trip the alarms walking over, but most of the sensors seemed to be low to the ground, facing the hallway ahead, and the officer safely behind. He would have to go over them. This could end badly if the glue corridor was next, but Mr. Mischief had an emergency plan in case something like that happened. Mr. Mischief pulled out suction cups and calmly started to crawl sideways along the higher areas of the wall.
What are you doing?
I'm going to steal a pen. You don't mind, do you? I left you a muffin to compensate.
The officer didn't go anywhere near the muffin. Not that new, then. Mr. Mischief backtracked enough to swing over and stuff the muffin into the officer's mouth before they could react. The officer froze and tried not to swallow, but the tranquilizer had already dissolved into their mouth, and they went limp.
He acts like I'm trying to kill him. My muffins just have tranquilizer.
Mr. Mischief moved the officer to a couch, before going back to his wall acrobatics. Crawling along the wall was tiring, and gravity definitely did not approve, but Mr. Mischief managed to keep going until he was able to slip around the corner. In this next corridor was another trap. The detective really went all out on setting up these traps. Not even a single break.
The heat sensor this time. As long as I don't get close, it should be fine, but they had to put it in the skinniest hallway. I don't think I have the stamina to climb the walls like last time, so...
Mr. Mischief chucked a grappling hook towards a light fixture on the other end of the hall, and found something to tie it to on his end. It wouldn't hold for long, but if he used it as a zip line, it might be enough to get him past. There was no room for hesitation. He immediately hopped on and zoomed past the second trap. Unfortunately, he had failed to notice the third one. It was the glue corridor he had been anticipating earlier. He had made sure the glue was strong enough to hold the man, but it had one weakness.
Where is it? Come on, where did I put it? Aha!
He pulled a squirt gun out of his jacket with his free hand and shot a stream of salt water at the glue surrounding him. The glue bubbled and shrank away, losing its stickiness. He would have to be careful not to waste the water. A squirt gun this size could only hold so much. He probably should have gone with a spray bottle after all. Luckily, there was enough for him to make a path for him to exit the glue corridor safely.
This is going to be an absolute nightmare to clean up later. Oh well. Now, all that should be left is that cage trap and the police. Based on previous patterns, my detective friend will have set up the cage around the pen itself. Picking the lock probably isn't an option with such a short time limit. Guess I will just dive right in then.
Mr. Mischief headed straight to the display podium where the pen was, but there was a disturbing lack of police in the remaining hallways. Even just outside the door, there was nothing. A disguise was useless at this point, so Mr. Mischief used a smoke bomb to blind the cameras long enough for him to transform to his usual Mr. Mischief outfit. Now, for the real show. He pushed the doors open with a bang and stepped into the room, followed by the fading cloud of smoke. Every single remaining officer was waiting in this room.
Nice to see you again. Would any of you be so kind as to grab me that pen? I really need to write something down.
So, you're finally here.
Are you sure about that? I might be a ghost.
Surround him! Don't let him get away!
So cruel. Not even grabbing me a pen to write my last words before you cart me off to prison.
Mr. Mischief danced out of the way of the police officers as they attempted to surround him, and jumped onto the podium before pushing a button on the remote in his pocket. Everything went black for a moment, then blindingly bright as every wall and ceiling was suddenly completely covered in mirrors. Even the podium had been encased in mirrors, creating a confusing maze.
He's gone!
Detective, the whole podium has vanished.
Mr. Mischief took out the speaker and held it to his mouth in his hiding place.
I am gone, but I am here. I am somewhere, but I am everywhere. Chew on that while you try to get out of my maze.
His voice reverberated from speakers all over the room, hiding his location. Mr. Mischief snatched the pen and opened the podium, slipping through a trap door underneath. This one was too easy. He carefully locked the podium behind him so no one would discover his trick, and followed the tunnel to an empty room he had set up. Now all that was left was to hide the pen and reappear as Mr. Voila.
Now where to hide you, my friend?
The thief looked around after stepping out of the room, and stumbled upon the detective's hat hanging near the door.
Perfect.
Mr. Mischief quickly hid the pen and slipped out the window, tripping the alarms. By the time the police arrived at the door, he had picked up his car and returned as Mr. Voila.
I hear the alarms. Did you catch him?
Mr. Mischief got away with your pen.
Well, it is just a pen. I can live without it. Want a cookie?
Mr. Voila took a bite of one of the cookies from a plate in his other hand. They looked and smelled absolutely delicious.
Where did you get those?
The cookies. I found them in the car on my back seat. He must have planted them there while I was working. They are really delicious. Oh, and they came with a note for you.
The detective took the note and read it, looking suspicious. But Mr. Voila just headed right past him, inside, as if he didn't have a care in the world. The note read,
Dear Detective, please stop stealing my apology cookies from people. It is a rather heartless thing to do. Oh, yes. Tonight was fun. We should do it again sometime.